We have breaking news now from Washington, D.C. and the United States Capitol regarding New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez. Let's go ahead and go to CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion on Capitol Hill. Nikole, of course, we know the senator dealing with his conviction of corruption, bribery, wire fraud, obstruction of justice. What is that breaking news?
Well, the news is that New Jersey Senator Bob Menendez intends to resign next month, effective August 20th, according to multiple sources familiar with his impending announcement. And of course, this comes as the senator was potentially set to return here to Capitol Hill today. Of course, the Senate has been out, but today would have been the first day back for senators, including Senator Menendez, which would have marked the first time since his conviction last week. Certainly important to remind viewers that the senator was convicted on 16 counts in a federal corruption case, everything ranging from bribery to extortion, a wire fraud, acting as a foreign agent, and other charges. And so these were all very serious. And we saw in the wake of that conviction a number of the senator's colleagues here in the Senate calling on him to resign. Others also suggesting they may move to expel him had he not resigned. So that is a significant development in that the New Jersey senator appears to now be making this decision to end his political career, which has spanned a decade, including 3 terms here in the U.S. Senate. But certainly the senator has made clear and did make clear after that guilty verdict that he still intended to fight the charges, and his attorneys believe that he will be vindicated.
And Nikole, hang on one second, because we are tracking multiple stories. We have Vice President Harris about to take the stage in Milwaukee. We also have President Biden, whose Air Force One plane just landed at Joint Base Andrews, and we are waiting to see the president. We know he's going to be making an Oval Office address tomorrow to talk about his decision to step down. But Nikole, back to Senator Menendez as we continue to monitor those live shots. August 20th, what is significant about that date? And do you feel like any of his colleagues in the Senate are going to push for him to step down sooner?
You know, I don't know what the significance may be other than that it's roughly a month from now. I would note that both chambers of Congress are set to be in recess by the end of this month. So in terms of any legislative business, for all intents and purposes, things are starting to wind down. But that being said, it is significant because that means that there will likely be a vacancy in that seat, one that the governor of New Jersey, Phil Murphy, will have to fill. And he also has made clear and did within the past week following Menendez's guilty verdict that he would and was prepared to make a temporary appointment. So we will have to see going forward kind of how that process plays out. And as I mentioned, you know, there was certainly a lot of pressure on the senator to step down. In fact, just this week, we heard from the Senate Ethics Committee, which had not only indicated that it was expediting its own investigation into the senator, but that it was now conducting a review into potential disciplinary actions, which could have included expulsion or possible censure. So that is also a question to look at going forward as to whether or not, given the senator's pending announcement, whether or not that Senate ethics review will continue.
And so once Governor Murphy does pick a successor, that person would serve out the rest of Menendez's term through January. What can you tell us about this Senate race, though, for this seat and how competitive it is in New Jersey?
Well, and I think that's something else that we have to watch. Obviously, we don't have the senator's resignation letter in hand, but I think it's important to note that he had indicated that he was still going to run for the U.S. Senate, to try to run for re-election as an independent instead of a Democrat. He switched his affiliation to do that, or got a petition in order to do that over the summer. But certainly if he is stepping down, down officially in his capacity as a U.S. Senator, one would have to question whether he can still run again for another term. So that being said, we do know that right now, New Jersey Congressman Andy Kim appears to be the front runner in this U.S. Senate race. He is running for Menendez's seat and actually announced his candidacy in the wake of the indictment against the senator last fall, arguing that he feels that New Jersey needs a new representation. And so he has kind of been at the forefront of those calls for the senator to step down. But he does face a Republican challenger. But that being said, certainly Senate Democratic leaders feel that they can keep this seat in the blue column.
And we know that while he is appealing, his sentencing is October 29th. Nikole Killion at the Capitol, thank you.
You bet.